All right, I think it's Sunday evening-ish, and this is the mighty Williston Lake behind me. If you Google that up and take a look at it, it is huge. This is just a tiny little sliver behind me. A little sliver of an arm of the lake, and you follow that arm out west from here. It is a massive piece of water. Huge! Now, let me adjust that one more time. There we go. It's gonna work better. We had a big day this morning. Big day. We were both a pair of zombies. Couldn't quite wake up today after a couple days driving, so we did our hike up to a mountain in the dark. Checked a couple trail cameras. Found a couple more big bull elk, and then decided it was time to go have an early one, an early bed tonight. Nothing worse than going off and having a start off hunting exhausted and don't get caught up on sleep at all. Maintain going through your hunt physically without getting caught up. It usually doesn't end well. So Sarah's got my binoculars. She's over there scanning all these mountainsides, watching for elk to come out in the evening up on the mountain. And I'm going to sit here while the sun's going down. And here's some people. This email is titled 3 Unusual Encounters in California. I don't think that's hard in that state, is it, these days? Dear Steve, thank you for welcoming me to the round table and hearing my stories. My parents separated when I was young, so I was raised in the city but spent my vacations partially with my father up in Northern California's country, where we had a small cattle ranch. One early summer in the early 60s, we were running a small dude string for tourists to ride horses in the northern Sierra Mountains near La Porte, California. My father was a real cowboy and had many skills, so we had built a small corral out of timber poles and had run a single strand of wire around a meadow across the road from our camp to hold the 10 horses at night. We had a small trailer with propane stove and refrigerator to eat in and slept under a large whale boat. A large whale boat cover near it on the ground. This is a real cowboy adventure for a 12-year-old boy to experience some Western-style living. One night, we and the 2 hired hands were awakened by a crashing through the brush sound of a very fast-moving something. Dad yelled to the others, "Was it a bear?" We thought it was trying to get some food we would keep in a bag placed in a nearby stream. I don't know what it was, but it was big and sure moved fast and made no other sounds. Smart, whatever it was. Scary that nobody knew it had entered our camp until it run off. That summer north of here, Dad had told me about 2 cowboys further north of us who claimed to film a Bigfoot. Yes, they're Bob Gimlin and Patterson. Who knows if. In a story for another time, Dad had relayed to me an encounter 2 prospectors, local to the area, had talked about a spaceship landing near their camp one night, and 3 short little men climbing down a ladder from the craft and retrieving a bucket of water from a creek, and then taking off. He said the prospectors had been ridiculed so that they would fight you if you brought it up. Second encounter took place also in the Sierras, near the Eel River, during deer season in 1974. I was on a short trip with my college roommate who had served in Vietnam a couple of years earlier. First night we camped on a cliff overlooking the river. It was a very brushy and tree-thick area, so we slept on the ground with no fire. The weather was still and warm that early October. Very peaceful and quiet until the middle of the night when we were awakened by a bipedal, loud crunching sound of something/someone walking down the hill from our car, which was parked on the logging road above us. I was a city-raised guy, so I was so spooked by this unknown in the total darkness that I said to my buddy, "Grab the rifles." He'd propped them up against a tree before. He replied, "No," and yet was also nervous enough to call out, "Hello, who's there?" Silence. We did not hear any sound or hear it leave. He said it was probably a deer. Again, I don't know, but weird feelings. Steve, you're an experienced hunter. Did deer stop and yell at them and then not move all night afterwards? Third encounter, the most weird and scary of all. It took place in the Big Sur wilderness just south of Pfeiffer State Park boundary in California. This is in the mid-1980s with a Native American friend hiking on a single-track trail inland east of Highway 1 near the Pacific coast. We parked in a parking lot and decided to hike back 12 miles to a hot spring. This is in the middle of the week during the summer, and not many people, in fact, hardly anybody was on the trail that we passed walking in there. Excuse me. The trail is very steep on one side going up and very steep on the downside. The vegetation and redwood trees were very thick on both sides, so you could hardly see up or down, left or right of the trail as you walked. The 3-hour hike was hot but peaceful, with some bird sounds but almost silent. A few nice young folks like ourselves were enjoying the spring, and my friend wanted to stay the night there. Well, with only our day packs on and a couple of energy bars, I just did not feel comfortable staying the night on the ground, so we decided to hike back to my truck and his tent to the parking lot. And this was late in the day. Jim was a good friend and of part Cheyenne Indian heritage, but he sure did walk more slowly than me, with a shorter height. I'm a tall, slender, built guy. We agreed that I would walk at my pace back down the trail and see him back at our campsite. We agreed that I would walk at my pace back down the trail and see him back at our campsite. We were both carrying small pistols in our packs, so I told him to fire off a sound when he reached about halfway back down the trail, and I would too. That way we'd confirm we were okay. We did that about 2 hours later, and I continued walking. I only passed one hiker on my way back, and she was in a hurry to get to the hot springs before dark. She looked a little stressed and sweaty, so I told her she had about 1 hour to her destination and that she would pass my friend coming the opposite way. It was getting late. I wanted to be back at my truck before darkness. What if she was sweaty because of all the gunshots? Kidding. Shortly afterwards, I walked around one of the bends in the trail, and everything went dead silent. On the way inbound early that day, we had smelled something really bad, like sweat, urine, feces, rot, that I'd not ever smelled before. And suddenly, a feeling of fear/dread came over me, and I could feel I was being watched/threatened. I never had such an immediate discomfort, and the hairs on my body were erect like I was cold. This feeling was so overwhelming that I looked back over my left shoulder up the mountain, and I felt I needed to trot quickly until I rounded another bend in the trail, and the birds were singing, and I felt relaxed again. Very strange and scary for me. Just at dark, Jim came in off the trail. I told him about the incident, and he told me he had the same feelings at the same location on the trail. He wrote it off as a mountain lion or some wild creature of the forest watching us. I wonder if firing off our pistols that day had any bearing on this. Being raised mostly in a big city, I had not experienced anything like this before, and have only reacted like this one time since. That occurred years later, one night in the city, when I saw a strange guy was crossing a dark street to come to me to do no good. I heard a voice, my dead mother maybe, saying, "Run toward him." I reacted and avoided who knows what. You are correct, Steve, that we Homo sapiens have senses or skills that have been buried through time. I've been viewing your videos for over 2 years now, and have been thinking back to other people and events I've experienced with a new perspective. I look back to 2 newspaper articles that reported sightings of these beings near where I now live, and I'm no longer amazed at how many witnesses exist worldwide. What is happening to all the missing folks in the national parks and forests? I now bring up the subject of the Sabe to whomever, and I don't care what they think of me personally. When you know, then you know. Education is the key to the truth, and you are part of that. Thank you for reading my experience. I anticipate more truth as you set up in your new home. I do wish it gives you what you need to thrive. David, Northern California. My new home? This wasn't an older one. Recent. All right, Dave, I appreciate that. I'm glad you speak of it openly. That's key these days, right? For everything, really. There you go. See who is familiar with those areas. Here's another one. Your video on September 20th. Charles Hamill here. I was watching the video that you read on September 20th, quote, "Its eyes were too wide to be a bear," end quote. At 3:20 time, if you'll notice on the same side of the river you're on, behind your right shoulder and approximately 125 to 150 yards upriver from you. Well, there is a white bipedal, large, hairy, I do believe, Bigfoot. Came out of the tree line and walked all the way across the river. No shit, brother. Check it out, Steve. Be safe out there. Charles A. Hamill / War Chief Tracker C. All right, well, if I get back in, if I can remember, I get back in service, I'll check it out. But you know our sleuths are going to check it out for sure, right? Wow, the Jeep drove all the way along that shoreline. I didn't know you could do that. Next email, Olympic Rainforest Secrets. Hi Steve, I messaged you once before about an experience at Baker Lake. Just the other day I had another experience. I just killed my rosy bull of a lifetime not long before dark when a couple of friends came out to speed up the process / celebrate. As soon as complete darkness set in, 3 extremely loud bangs came from deep in the timber. My friend, a local, just said sarcastically, "It's Bigfoot tree knocking. I've seen it on TV." In the back of my head, I was wondering if he was sarcastic about just the TV part of the Bigfoot idea in general, but it also wasn't really the right time for that conversation as business was being taken care of. Also, at one point earlier in the week, I was tracking an elk herd when I noticed a track that strangely looked like a barefoot human track. But as I was busy on elk, I disregarded it and didn't look closely or take photos. Looking back, I wish I had. Here's the bull if you'd like to look. Right on, man. Congrats on that bull. Got him your bow. It's awesome. Here, for all you hunters out there who want to see. Is that working? Definitely not the first elk hunter to hear the sounds, right? Or, at times, see. What do we got here? Mark this as red. Indie Gal reports in number 2. Greetings, Steve and Sarah and the fellow members of the Club in a Return. To remind you who I am, I recently reported joining the Club in a Return circa 1975, when my father took my mother, my cousin, and myself to the 8 caves at the base of Mount St. Helens in the summer of 74 or 75. I referenced a particular diabolical mind talk assault that involved a frightening full-on mind infiltration, complete with physical movement of the travel trailer I was staying in on my parents' property. An older, very angry male proclaimed his dominance and made his desires known to me. The very detail of his intention to violate and murder me came to physical manifestation some years later on the very ground the threats were made upon. If I had not lived this, I would not believe it myself. I did not mention in my earlier email my Cherokee bloodline or other bloodline affiliations. I only share this now because there is a multi-generational connection. In the days, months, and years that have transpired, I've shared this devastating experience with those who are closest to me. And it's now a matter of public record. I did eventually suffer the described attack. I've spent the last couple of years trying to navigate the post-COVID medical world, the new normal legal world, to recover and help protect other innocents from predators that most will never acknowledge as real. It has mind-bending beyond experience what can be considered real, as least as we are taught was real and possible. I am happy to share my truth, however it is ugly. Recently, you have begun to share more of the ugly truth of these experiences. I'm no longer afraid to weigh in and share puzzle pieces. I do not want to endanger your channel or trigger people. However, people need to know. There is a dark side to this part of life. These, quote, people, end quote, can be possessed by the same evil that overtakes regular humans as we know them. If you're interested in more, I'll write back. I watch regularly and feel certain I will catch it if you read this. All right, I got you. Just reading a quick little paragraph meant for me. All right, I got you. Well, you know what? First off, you follow your gut with every decision you make. And if you are being driven internally to come forward, please do. It's your story, your experience, your life. If you believe the people need to hear something you know of experience that'll help them, this is a great place to do it. All right? Appreciate you sharing that email. And I'm sure we'll hear from you again. This next email is titled, Here to Help. Gotta love that title. I've never seen a Sasquatch. I'm positive they exist. I had PTSD from a huge UFO floating over me and two friends in 1985-86. I was hysterical. I thought it was the end of the world. Anyways, I've never seen a Sasquatch, never want to. I understand the PTSD though. So, I'm in the mountains next to the Tennessee line. I'm a fly fisherman and I like to hunt. I like to hunt some as well. My brother died before I could get to his land in northern Wisconsin. Died of the coronavirus, they said, but I still didn't mask up or get the jab. Up them. They can shovel that up their asses. Anyway, if anyone is in my area and wants to get back out in the woods to trout fish or fish for big-ass muskie or whatever, I'd be happy to team up and help them break through that shit one step at a time. I enjoy your channel tremendously. P.S. My take on them is the same as Scott Carpenter. Sincerely, DJ Selichowski. I hope I didn't trash your last name, DJ. That's a kind offer. A man who's survived PTSD and wants to help others with it. There you go. Maybe make some comments in the comment section below the video. You gotta love people when they come forward to offer up to help people on this channel. Happens a lot, right? All right. This is titled Transformation Times. Dear Steve, thank you for what you're doing. Hello to the community who gathers to listen to each other's stories. It's a beautiful thing. I'm writing from northeast New South Wales, Australia. I love hearing the stories. A few things happened to me and I don't know what they mean yet. Puzzle pieces. In 2009, while driving on a country road in Victoria, I clearly felt a tap on the top of my head. Like someone had firmly patted my head just once. It made me laugh. I was reminded of stories of Zen masters striking their students to help enlighten them. Something invisible got my attention in this strange way. The sensation was unmistakable. I am mentioning this one because I heard someone else had something similar. Otherwise, I don't think I would have thought it could be related to Yowies. In early 2010, I was staying in a cottage northeast New South Wales, and I was immersed in reading the Anastasia Ringing Cedars book series. I also watched a documentary called The Corporation around that time. I'm mentioning those things because I wonder later if my consciousness at the time had anything to do with what had happened. One evening, I opened the front door and stepped out to take a bag of rubbish. It was a full or fairly full bright moon that night. It was shining towards the little house. I could see it through the trees as I stood on the small front veranda, which was simply a platform about 1.5 meters square. With a couple of steps down, there was a porch light on too. And what happened was so fast. To my right, I saw a small being. He was about a meter away from me, and he was about 1.2 meters tall, and he was facing towards the veranda, just past the steps. So I was seeing him mainly in profile, his left side. He was light, whitish, moon-colored, you could say. He even seemed to be a bit luminous, and the way he moved was strange, like gravity wasn't affecting him normally. Thin body, legs, arms, and a large head compared to our proportions. Bald. I don't recall any garments. He was lightly stepping towards the veranda, gently, hands somewhat ready to touch the timber edge, perhaps. He definitely was aware of me, his face slightly towards me, and a slight smile. And then I saw him bend down in one motion. It was like his shape collapsed and transformed into a small dog, identical to the neighbor's dogs, Maltese Terriers, I think they are, fluffy things. And this dog was then snuffing and wagging his tail and sniffing around the ground beside the steps. I guess I should add that I don't recall seeing those dogs at this place, and it was late. Excuse me, not a time I would expect to see it, especially with such a lively attitude. And I had not ingested anything or hallucinogenic, as far as I know. It's not my thing. I found myself in an adrenaline rush. My back against the wall, door slammed shut, and a feeling of not really remembering how I got there. I felt physically frightened, but mentally and emotionally fine. Wowed. On the one hand, my body instincts got me away from it as if it was life or death. On the other hand, I was thinking, wow, what was that? How amazing. I felt like it had deliberately changed into something that I knew would be non-threatening to me so as not to frighten me too much. I didn't think of Sasquatch at the time. However, the fact that I saw it shapeshift in front of me means, how do I know what I am seeing ever? I mean, are dogs dogs or sometimes something else? You can see where this can go. Horses, cows, kangaroos, birds, all creatures we see around here and think nothing of it. I recently saw a story on YouTube that related shape-shifting experiences involving Sasquatch and a deer. I was amazed. Could this be why I've been fascinated with Sasquatch stories for a while? No idea. Haha, just joking. But seriously, who knows? Anyway, I felt blessed to have witnessed something outside of this reality we're told exists. It felt benign to me, helping me to open my mind more. And a couple other things happened more recently. I think I was gifted a stone and a mushroom. I heard mine speak once. It was just one word. Papers. Which holds meaning for me as I've been distributing independent newspapers to raise awareness about law and rights, etc. These days I've come to believe that we need to realize we are not alone in the universe, and that this is somehow part of how we get through the crazy time of planetary tyranny. I also believe that coming together in a unity around core values of freedom and respect is absolutely key. Much love to the positive tribe here. I've looked deeply at our shared problems worldwide, trying to find answers. A major pattern I see is that money was designed with fatal flaws so that slavery has flourished beneath our awareness. People need to be set free from the bonds that keep so many on treadmills, forced to serve the powers that work against us. The power of intent should not be underestimated, and unity amongst good people. The belief that we ourselves are infinitely valuable by our very existence is held by many beautiful souls. Some are uniting by agreement worldwide to create together peace and well-being for all. gpms.world. Thanks again for what you're doing and all the wonderful listening going on. May we create peace on earth. In faith and freedom, Megan. Dalburwer. Safe place in Gumbanger. Gumbanger. New word to me. I appreciate the sovereignty and lore of the original peoples. Alright, there you go. It's a kind email and a pretty frickin' bizarre experience. Right? Take from what you will, you guys will leave it, but it's not the first person to have experienced seeing something change form into another thing. Do I believe it's possible? At this stage of the game, anything is possible in this lifetime, from what we've learned from each other and what we've seen with our own eyes. A lot of people come forward with a lot of different truth, right? A lot. It's good. Although some people go, I'm just here for the Bigfoot stories. Are ya? Well, you're going to be here for a lot of truth. That's all there is to it. It's truth we're after. It all links up together. Right? What else have we got? Give me a second. I just found another one from February that hadn't been read. February this year. Titled, well, there's no title. It just goes right into... Excuse me. I just thought I would share this photo with you. It's off of a video somebody posted. Somebody saw this being from a ways away and took a photo of it while hiking. I'm not 100% sure of the legitimacy, but the being is quite tall to be faked. You can use my name. Ron Sunahorsky. That's a weird one. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Hopefully it's light enough. Check that out. Is it focusing? No. I think it's focusing, isn't it? There we go. Anybody seen that photo? Familiar with it? I haven't seen it before. Another photo. Man, I get a lot of emails in here just for me. No share publicly. It's peaceful behind me. The sound of that lake shore reminds me of my grandparents taking me camping when I was a kid. What do we got here? Don't know what this is about, but I'm going to read it. It's not been read before. Some minor truths. All right, let her rip. Hi, Steven thinks it's going to be an email that adds a few puzzle pieces to people's puzzles. I think I'm going to hold back quite a bit, though, because the things I've come to learn is reality shattering and wouldn't be believed anyhow by 99% of the people just yet. Let her rip on this channel, believe me. I do want to mention briefly an important puzzle piece relating to the Sabe people. The Sabe are, like so many others, what is called a bastard race. Bastard meaning mixed with genetic impurities, and race meaning people. This means they're not of man, and can therefore not inherit the earth and have dominion over it. They're not blue-blooded, born living. They are a race of hairy bastards, and the reason they have a tendency to look so differently is for that very reason. They are mixed with genetic impurities. So, some may look more like a man, or others more like an ape, or whatever. If you want to make figuring out the truth easy for yourself, simply accept that what you thought was fantasy actually wasn't. It's all reversed, trust me. Take from this what you will. I just wanted to share this info as I have heard so many sharing their theories about what they think the Sabe are, and what we are. And these theories always tend to involve us looking like we are the rest of them and not vice versa. Sorry, the result of them, and not vice versa. They are from the line of Cain, which are the people they are hiding today. And yeah, organizations like the BF, blah blah O, and the people running it are all in on this, hence why they do what they do. You might call these agents illusionists. As with the illusionist, all they do is make sure the focus/attention of their audience is where they want it to be. This allows them to hide in the peripheral, just under the people's noses. Laughter and mockery work wonders too. This is a very well used tool of theirs. Now, do I want to touch on some things that are the system is hidden from us in order to gain an advantage over us and keep us in the dark, such as how law works, what words mean, and the true purpose of schooling. I'm going to use the words thou and thouself in this email, a bunch at certain points as thou is singular, referring to the individual, while you is plural and refers to a group of individuals. You're not speaking real languages is something that becomes clear when thou becomes master of thy own words, especially English. English is today what Latin was then. It is the international, inter meaning between, and nation meaning people, and people live on land, so the sea. Trade and commerce language of merchants and bankers, like in, say, goodbye or goodbye. Briefly on law. Law is something that is constant and eternal and governs all things, such as the law of buoyancy and density, that things rise and fall relative to the medium that surrounds it. So a rock is way heavier than the air that surrounds it, so it falls quickly through it. But a feather is only slightly heavier than air, so it falls slowly. And raindrops are heavier than air, so they fall through it. And air is less dense and therefore lighter than water, so air bubbles rise through water. An apple will fall through the air, but float in water. So if we jump off a cliff, it doesn't matter what you think of the matter. You're heavier than air, so you will fall through it every time, no matter what. That is law. It is something that governs the function of our world. and has been like that since the beginning of everything, and will be like that until the end of all things. This is an example of natural law. I urge all to learn about natural law. I can recommend a seminar that is available on YouTube, a guy called Mark Passio. I tell you this so that you will have some comprehension to what law entails, and that it is in fact not something that someone gets to make up and write on a piece of paper. That is law. Today wasn't yesterday, might not be tomorrow. This is the difference between what is lawful and what is legal. Legal is derived from lex, meaning word, as in lexicon, a book of words. Oh, all right, you know what? I just started reading an email that is a long book. It's going to be pitch black by the time I get through it, unfortunately. So I can't continue doing that right now. Looks like the sun's going down anyway, right? Man, I shouldn't say I can't stand it, but I look out in that lake where it goes, and all I see is unknown adventure for me. Oh, I could just jump in a boat and head that way forever. I'll swing the camera that way so you can see what I'm looking at. I think I'm going to get moving. We're going to get up early tomorrow and see if we can't get one of these big elk for Sarah. Get in her freezer. And I'll try to take you guys along with me, possibly. We'll see. It's been tough. It's raining today, so. But I'll be back tomorrow, and I'm going to share more. Share my story at howtohunt.com. All right? That's where you send it. All right, I got to go. I got to see if there's any elk up on that slope before it's too dark. I'll be back tomorrow. It's funny. Sometimes you see things in the woods that just don't make sense. It's not a small one. How come there's no other ones? It is what it is.